This is the nativity scene you've always known. A barn, a baby, in a wooden manger, shepherds gathered nearby, 3 kings kneeling before the child, watched over by an angel, and a brilliant star. You've seen it in paintings, plays, homes, and churches around the world. It's one of the most cherished images in Christianity, but almost everything in this picture-perfect scene is wrong. Because the real story of Jesus' birth is far more complex, symbolic, and meaningful than most people realize. You'll never look at another nativity the same. This is the real nativity story. And it came to pass that all the world should be taxed. This is how the traditional story always begins. Soon Joseph and Mary set out from Nazareth to Bethlehem. We always imagine Mary riding a donkey, led by Joseph, but Luke never mentions a donkey. Instead, Mary and Joseph likely traveled to Bethlehem with a caravan for safety, a rough journey of 3 to 5 days. If they had a donkey, it carried their belongings. According to the traditional story, once they arrive, Joseph desperately searches for a hotel. Mary is on the verge of giving birth, yet the callous innkeeper denies them entry. But again, this never actually happened. It all comes from one sentence in Luke. There was no room for them in the inn. In Greek, an inn or a hotel is called a pandechaion, the same word Luke used to describe where the Good Samaritan took the wounded man. But Luke doesn't use this word in the Nativity. He says katalama, meaning guest room, likely in a private house. Since Joseph is returning to Bethlehem, his hometown, he probably still has family living there who would have welcomed them into their home. Like most first-century rural homes, this consisted of a large courtyard surrounded by storage rooms and a small stone-built house. The house likely only had 2 dirt floor rooms. The larger room was for cooking and washing, the smaller for sleeping. Perhaps this smaller room is what Luke meant by the katalama, the guest room, already crowded with relatives returning for the census. Thus, no innkeeper, no frantic search for a place to stay, and Mary, probably not on the verge of giving birth at this point. Luke simply writes, while they were there, the time came for her to give birth. Thus some time passes in Bethlehem while staying in the guest room. When Mary's contractions finally begin, she definitely needed help. She was a first-time mother and likely only 13 or 14 years old. This may surprise modern listeners, but in the first century it was customary for Jewish women to marry in their early teens. Young men were generally only a bit older, so Joseph was likely in his late teens or early 20s. So Mary was almost certainly not alone during childbirth. In ancient Israel, women were assisted by experienced midwives, as illustrated in the Bible with Rachel and Tamar. When the time comes, Mary is moved from the guest room for privacy, safety, and ritual purity concerns to the family stable, a cavern near the house. Due to Bethlehem's abundance of caves and scarcity of wood, many homes incorporated caves as stables. These were easily fenced and naturally maintained cool temperatures during the day and warmth at night. But what about the traditional wooden stable we see in every nativity? This emerged much later from a European context where stables were built of wood. We also commonly picture animals like sheep, oxen, and donkeys in the nativity. Yet this tradition is inspired by the shepherds, who we assume brought their sheep, and a passage in Isaiah. The ox knows its master, the donkey its owner's manger. However, any animals were probably removed to make room for Mary. In that humble cave, Mary gave birth to her firstborn son, Jesus, wrapping him in cloth and laying him in a manger. However, unlike the wooden crib-like boxes we so often see in nativities, a Judean manger was a stone, water, or feed trough, sometimes carved from a single limestone block or hewn into the cave wall. That night, as the family celebrates the newborn, shepherds arrive, startled, breathless. They've just seen a host of angels in the field. We often imagine this as a heavenly chorus, singing praises to the newborn Messiah. But in Greek, Luke calls the angels astratia, an army come from heaven to announce their Messiah King. They chant a battle hymn, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." Jesus' birth fulfills prophecy. Born in Bethlehem, the city of David, heir to the royal line, the true King of Israel, the one earthly king, would oppose him. Sometime later, a caravan from the east arrives at Herod's court in Jerusalem. You've been told that these were the wise men, 3 kings riding camels. Yet Matthew never says this. That's a tradition inspired by the 3 gifts they bring, and by Isaiah, where Gentile kings bring camels with gifts of gold and frankincense. Instead, Matthew calls them Magi, a Greek word meaning astrologer or scholar. The Magi were likely from Babylon, a city renowned for its astrological texts, and they interpreted the star as an omen of a newborn king. They ask Herod a dangerous question. Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? Herod is alarmed, perceiving a new threat. See, Herod sits uneasily on his throne. He's not David's heir. He's not even really Jewish, but a Roman-appointed ruler, paranoid and brutal. He's already killed his brother-in-law, 2 sons, and his favorite wife, fearing they'd take his power. Feigning devotion, Herod tells the Magi, "Go, find the child, and return so that I too may worship him." The Magi travel the 5 miles to Bethlehem, the place foretold by Micah and Samuel, a star appearing over the home where Jesus lived. When they enter, they find not a stable, nor a newborn in a manger, but according to Matthew, a young child. The Magi kneel before him and offer gifts: gold, fit for a king, frankincense, used in the temple incense, and myrrh, a fragrance used in his burial, perhaps foreshadowing his death. We know the rest of the story. The Magi don't return to Jerusalem because they are warned in a dream. Murderous and paranoid, Herod kills all the boys in Bethlehem, 2 and younger. But Joseph, likewise, warned in a dream, flees to Egypt with his young family. For centuries, we've told this story with painted angels and wooden barns. And while many pieces of the traditional nativity story may be missing, what matters most is the meaning. He was wrapped in swaddling cloths, just as he would one day be wrapped in linen. Laid in a stone manger in a cave, just as he would one day lie in a stone tomb. Surrounded by those who loved and worshipped him, like those who would devote their lives to his ministry. As we ponder the true nativity story, let it be a reminder of that special night in Bethlehem. This Christmas, may we honor him by giving the gift of our time and devotion, serving and living as he did. This is the greatest gift we can give, his love for others.